In yesterday's vlog, I shared forecasts from the IMF all the way from world economic forecasts through to country forecasts. And I thought it would be useful to use today to speak about how we are doing at the company and community level. The first piece of data that speaks to this comes from co-founder and CEO of Yoko, Katlego Mapai. And what the Yoko data records across small businesses in South Africa, across a wide range of sectors, is an absolutely staggering decline in business activity over the past 2 weeks. Going into a lockdown, there was a little rebound that was rushed last-minute spending. Over the course of the 2 weeks that Yoko reports, and by extension last week, we have as much as an 80% decline in small business activity. The extent of impact is reinforced by data that comes from TransUnion. TransUnion surveys 2,000 consumers, and those 2,000 consumers, 80% of them, 8 in 10 consumers, record a decline in household income. 1 in 3 say that their work hours have been reduced under lockdown, and 1 in 10 of the people that have been impacted under the TransUnion report declare that they have become unemployed under lockdown. Lee Nike, the CEO of TransUnion, says that there is only one way out of this, and that is together. And indeed, that way has been led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who declared a reduction in pay, extended that to cabinet, and that lead has been followed by many executives, by many companies. I'm proud to report or to share with you that our company has followed that lead, that our group has followed that lead, and that many of the businesses in which we are invested have taken that lead and joined in that effort to look after the collective. Tragically, the job is much bigger than that. Ruth Hall from PLAS suggests that as many as 5.5 million informal workers may have lost employment, may have lost income under lockdown, and that those 5.5 million look after 16.5 million lives. Simply put, the job is much bigger than that collective initiative. And in this environment, and given the extent of the impact, it is impossible to reconcile the declaration by unions that they are going to wage war on government for wage increases that were promised under a different environment, in a different circumstance, with a different budget. In this environment, given the fragility of the social fabric, given the extent of the economic impact, given the state of our fiscus, it is impossible to see how those promised wages under different circumstances can be delivered in this environment. That declaration of war should not in any way take away from the importance of frontline workers in the public sector, educators, healthcare workers, but to look after wage increases that were promised in a different environment, impossible to reconcile. And so on that front, let me suggest that if we carry on down that road of saying and doing and not quite squaring up to the difficult decisions, it is not a matter of whether South Africa arrives at the door of the IMF, but when we will arrive at the door of the IMF. The only way that we will stay away from the door of the IMF is by squaring up to the structural adjustment proposals that were made towards the end of last year under Tito Mbowene's 77-pager. These structural adjustment initiatives start with the very bloated public sector wage bill. They extend to state-owned enterprises, where over the past 15 years, state-owned enterprises have been afforded spending of 300 billion rand. To translate that 300 billion rand in today's language, a spend of 300 billion would be the equivalent of giving every South African, not every household, every South African, 2,000 rand a month for the next 6 months. Imagine the circumstance, the social fabric that could be restored or repaired or sustained if we had access to that purse under this circumstance. Well, we don't. We've spent that money. It's gone. Those structural reforms must happen. Not all of this is about complaining. There are some easy wins available, starting with the release of valuable spectrum in the telecom sector and reversing the ease of doing business. 10 years ago, South Africa ranked as one of the easiest places in the world to do business. We've lost our way in that competitive lineup. We need to find our way back. And this is not a complaint against the public sector. The private sector needs to join in here too. For the past 10 years, the private sector has been in an investment boycott. That investment purse string must be released to help economic recovery. And the private sector purse will start in motion the flywheel of multipliers, spillovers, and linkages. The private sector also needs to bolster mid and small sized business activity. That is the engine room of employment creation. And in all of this, it points to the collective and the importance of squaring up to those tough decisions. No talking, doing, getting on with it. So whilst attention might be on Cyril Ramaphosa looking for his next pronouncement, my argument to you in today's vlog is the importance of the next decision sits squarely with Tito Mboweni in his public sector actions and us in our private sector actions. Thank you for being with me today. In the spirit of today's vlog, stay together, stay home, stay safe. See you soon.